I think WhatsApp brings with it a kind of a sense of immediacy and responsiveness that property seekers expect. And our tool just allows that to happen more efficiently than some of the older systems that are in place.
Today, I have Matt Searle, who works at a company called Pseudonym.
Thanks for having me, Alfredo.
So your company deals worldwide. In fact, you used to live in Barcelona. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
And now you're nowhere near Barcelona right now, though. Right now, you're talking from
Zimbabwe. Recently relocated to my homeland of Zimbabwe with my young family.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about Pseudonym, just to get the ball rolling.
So Pseudonym is in fact based in Stellenbosch, South Africa, just outside Cape Town. So I'm sort of one of the remote team members working for them from there. And we started life as a call tracking business, and that is essentially we help advertisers, mainly portals, but agencies themselves and anyone sort of marketing oriented to attribute call telephone leads to their source. And then we also give visibility over kind of what happens. Are calls being answered? Are they being returned? We can record calls and do things like that as a means for, as I said, people who care about marketing spends or proving value of marketing spends to be able to show that those leads are coming from those channels as opposed to anywhere else. We've been in business for the last 7 or 8 years. And over that time, there's obviously, kind of quite a big societal shift towards WhatsApp or instant messaging, at least in our markets, our core markets, it's mainly WhatsApp. And so people who previously would have picked up the phone to make an inquiry about a house or a car or any other verticals we work in are now sending a WhatsApp message. So we've shifted our offering into the WhatsApp space to be able to give those same marketing people the ability to have some visibility over the leads and the traffic that marketing spend is generating, and then kind of what happens post initial click on contact on WhatsApp, getting lead details, and getting some view over responsiveness of the sales teams who need to get back to those inquiries.
So just to explain this in layman's terms, from a broker perspective or a developer, traditionally, if they're generating leads away from, if it's a portal, then they're limited by whatever the portal itself allows as a source for generating the leads, which would be a form in most cases.
Correct.
But when the agencies, the brokerage that are doing lead gen, where they might have on either through their website or through landing pages, at the moment, the process for tracking sake of nothing else is just a form, old school form that they have. And then maybe because WhatsApp is a large part of the follow-up process, it's a very engaged and a successful way of following leads up in the real estate sector here, they would then take that's come from a form and try and turn that conversation into a WhatsApp conversation with the buyer. What you're saying is you could actually generate the lead with a lead magnet that's actually a WhatsApp conversation initiated at the source, so on the landing page or the website, that WhatsApp conversation would then come directly into the CRM if they're using a CRM, which I would hope they are, to do that. And you could actually bring in some of the information of that lead and route it to whichever agent that you want based on whatever criteria that you set. Is that right?
You've got it exactly right.
Got it.
Sell it better than I do. No, that's exactly right. So, I mean, our system is aimed at property seekers who want to start their journey on WhatsApp. And so, I mean, I think in your world, you talk a lot about sort of the real estate agents and the developer side and kind of what motivates incentives they have in terms of WhatsApp. We also look at it from the property seeker side. And we know from our data where we have a contact by telephone and contact by WhatsApp button sitting next to each other, that in almost all markets that we operate in, more than 50% of property seekers will choose the WhatsApp option where it's offered as kind of an equal contact option or call to action. So the property seekers want it, and it's because it's easy, it's frictionless, it's non-intrusive. You can send a WhatsApp message at 10 at night, which you couldn't do with a phone call. It's a little bit more interactive and immediate than an email. So it's a happy medium as a channel. So property seekers want it. As you said, agents will use it at some stage during the property buying journey. They'll often move the conversation to WhatsApp after initially receiving the lead. So we built our system to try and kind of bridge those two worlds and say, okay, the property seekers want to start their journey on WhatsApp. They want to reach out via WhatsApp. They like it. Agents are happy to take the conversation there at some point. Why not allow property seekers to start their agents to receive the initial inquiry, but cover some of the kind of the challenges and the weaknesses and the reasons that the agents might be reluctant to sort of have property seekers start the journey there, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Because in most cases, at least a brokerage that's more than one person would have, say, the company's WhatsApp account hooked up to this facility, should they have it. And
yes,
that would be somebody in the office that's managing that, maybe even the sales manager if they're super organized. But then when that lead comes into there, they're then having to forward things, and nothing's touching the CRM. And that's a big pain
Correct.
point for a lot of agency owners and sales managers, and that tracking those leads, having that information go into lead, being able to attribute that what's going on, is a bit of a black box at the moment that they can't. And I understand that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I understand that one of the limitations that still exists to this day for everybody is that because of the whole principle behind direct messaging and WhatsApp being an encrypted two-way peer-to-peer conversation type thing, it's very, very difficult, almost impossible in some cases, to actually record all those conversations from once it goes to the broker, between the broker and the buyer. All that part of it is still not quite something that can be done, but the first part can. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. So despite kind of furores about WhatsApp privacy issues sort of 18 months ago and whatever, it remains a very private tool. And WhatsApp won't allow a third party, so say a real estate agency management, to view a private conversation between a broker on his personal or her personal WhatsApp phone and the property seeker on there. So there's no ways, if that is how you insert your agents and property seekers interacting, there's no ways to see the contents of the conversation. And that's slightly different to our call tracking business, because when we're tracking calls, we can record the call, for example. But you're right, there's no visibility post the handoff. But everything.
You can generate the lead, like wherever the lead is coming from, as long as this facility to put the functionality there. You can generate the lead straight through WhatsApp. So you're not having to turn an old school lead into a WhatsApp conversation. It starts as a WhatsApp conversation, but one of the weaknesses is that maybe this will start if the buyer starts the conversation at midnight because they're bored at home. There's unlikely to be somebody available to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And therefore it would just sit there. Probably if it's on a Friday night, it might sit there till Monday until someone goes, "Oh, hi, yes, sorry, thanks, we didn't answer you on Friday." But your system allows for some level of automation. Explain that a little bit to me.
Exactly. So, I mean, the basic flow of our system is that a lead that comes through WhatsApp to an agency will generally go to a centralized agency-controlled WhatsApp number, which, from what I understand, happens in many instances in Spanish agencies at the moment. The difference with our system is that is completely automated. So as soon as that WhatsApp inquiry comes in about a listing, our system will send an automatic response to the property seeker. If it's out of hours, for example, we can explain that the business is closed and they can expect a response the following morning, for example. And so immediately set the property seeker's expectations from that initial interaction. What our systems will then do is fire a notification to the responsible selling agents. Could be on WhatsApp, or it could be put into the CRM, it could be sent to them via email. But that notification will have a link or some information about the inquirer, which listing they're looking at, and a bunch of other information. And when the agent is ready, when they wake up in the morning, they can simply click on a link in that notification, which will then connect them directly on WhatsApp to the property seeker. And so that gives that whole process, first of all, allows the property seeker to receive acknowledgement of their inquiry immediately and sets the kind of expectations about what's going to happen next. And then also allows, people who care about marketing spend and agent performance can see if and when the agent respond to that inquiry the next day, for example. And if there's no response, that data is available and the agency can follow up and pass it on to a different agent, or the customer service team can jump in to manage frustrations, just so that, I think WhatsApp brings with it a kind of a sense of immediacy and responsiveness that property seekers expect. And our tool just allows that to happen more efficiently than some of the older systems that are in place.
So here's a specific question. So I would imagine that the WhatsApp, click to call or whatever it is, on the website or landing page, you would ordinarily get the message from a number, and you would then start that sort of, "Hi, what's your name?" and all that kind of process. Is there any of that process that you guys handle?
Yeah, so we can automate some qualifying questions in that initial kind of agency-controlled number. Say, inquiry comes in, the response can be, "Hi, what is your full name, please? What is your email address?" Or, if there are important questions that an agency want answered before notifying the agent or before putting the details into the CRM, our system can answer those
And you could take
ask those
the, and
automatically.
so a little bit like a chat bot type of
Correct.
idea, right? So you
Exactly.
could then take the name, put that in the name field of the CRM, the phone and the phone, whatever
Correct.
information you're getting, you can actually populate the CRM automatically, and then have some form of
Exactly.
notification to the relevant parties. Because quite often,
Yeah.
also, the sales director or owner might want to be aware that this is happening, but not have to look in the company WhatsApp conversation to see
Sure.
what's
Yeah.
happening. So that's something that happens. Okay.
Well, an important distinction is you get a bunch of information without even needing to ask for it. So because you're getting a WhatsApp message from a person, you get their WhatsApp number. Like if you were to send me a WhatsApp message, I'm going to see your number in my phone. So you get that person's number, you get their WhatsApp name, if they happen to have their real name in their WhatsApp. If it's a bunch of emojis, it's a little bit less useful, but you get whatever they call themselves in their WhatsApp account.
Gotcha.
And you can also program the incoming message to have the listing they're inquiring about. All of that information is automatic. You don't have to ask qualifying questions for that.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Is like they're on a page for listing R12345.
Correct.
How would the agent know that is where that's what they're inquiring about? So you'd be able to pull that information from the URL or somewhere, I presume, right?
Exactly. And actually, we can go further than that. So we can also, if the leader started its journey on Google, for example, his or her journey on Google, and then arrived at the agency's website, we can attach the source, the Google source, in my example, to the incoming message, and have that in the metadata, so that the agency can actually say, oh, well, this came from our website, but this person found us via Google search or via a Facebook ad or via
okay. So you can, like the typical UTM code things that you get.
Exactly.
You can
UTM,
build
exactly.
that campaign, you get the whole thing, right? Okay, that's fantastic.
Exactly.
And from what I understand, it will be based, depending on the volume of messages, there'll be different packages. Is that how it works? So you have different monthly packages that you pay for, and some setup fees, that sort of thing. Is that right?
Correct. There's a software as a service kind of model, which has some volume attached to it, the number of leads and messages that are coming through the system.
But we're talking a few €100, aren't we? That sort of thing. We're not talking tens of thousands or anything mental.
No. A couple €100 a month will get you up and running with a bit of installation costs, depending on CRM integrations and property inventory integrations. But yeah, it's about 200.
And is this done online, or is this done? Do they speak to how if an agent is interested in finding out using this system, they can see on the website you got prices and stuff like that. It's pretty transparent. But what's the process in terms of from beginning to end, time wise, from your?
It's not an easy process. I wish I could say it was, only because we have to get some WhatsApp stuff set up, and dealing with WhatsApp and Facebook is not always the easiest thing in the world. So
of course, yeah.
Getting through that process can take some time, depending on where the agency is at in the kind of their Facebook journey. I imagine most Spanish real estate agencies have a verified Facebook account, for example. That's step one. So getting that number up and running, and then getting all of the property inventory in our system, so we know this listing must go to this agent, for example. That on average takes 3 weeks to a month to get through the whole process.
Okay, so within about a month, depending on how
Correct.
complex the whole setup is, or how.
Correct,
So do you have to basically get access through the Facebook account? Is that how it works?
Yes, I mean so our system is built on the WhatsApp APIs, the API number, and to get a WhatsApp API number, which is kind of that intro number that receives all the initial inquiries, you need to have a verified Facebook account. So you have to have some sort of relationship with Facebook, or do that before we can help you.
Okay, so that problem, now I understand the possible delays then.
Yes,
dealing with Facebook is a world in its own. Okay, that's cool. So here's another question, just jumping ahead. So it's fairly straightforward. They can go onto the website. The link will be in this conversation in the description, and they can inquire from there directly. Is that right?
Absolutely. There'll be a contact us on WhatsApp, obviously, on our website.
They can WhatsApp the inquiry.
They can WhatsApp the inquiry. Exactly. They can indeed. Or there's our email address. Yeah, it's on the website, which is pseudonym.com. The nice thing about our contact on WhatsApp is the kind of the agent can experience our solution.
Okay. So I'll put a link to the page that has that. Is it a page, or is it just a link direct for the WhatsApp conversation to start?
It's a page with a QR code at the bottom of it, which will initiate the whole WhatsApp process. So it's our WhatsApp page.
Cool.
The bottom of that is a QR code that'll allow you to contact us on WhatsApp.
Excellent. And so is it shifting the question a little bit to a broader thing, because you don't just obviously deal with just portals and with agents and developers, but property portals. Correct. You work with some of the property portals that they might know here. I think you work with, is it James Edition? Do you guys work with?
That's correct. We do, yeah.
Right. Is there, in Europe at least, is there any good reason why a property portal, particularly those who serve the international buyer community, so the cross-border second home markets, is there any good reason why they wouldn't have a WhatsApp inquiry form on their forms as part?
Why the portals wouldn't have them?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the portals tell you they're good reasons. I'm who's trying to sell a WhatsApp solution. I don't think they are good reasons, but no, I think the kind of market dynamic in Western Europe over the last few years has been generating leads and showing leads haven't been the problem. In fact, agents, and I mean, your listeners will correct me if I'm wrong on this, it's not about the quantity of leads that are coming in, it's maybe more about the quality. And I think maybe agents and the portals have been reluctant to put down a contact on WhatsApp because they expect that people just to kind of hit the button and become overwhelmed by WhatsApp inquiries. Whereas, you know, if you put a bit of friction in the form of a contact form, maybe that kind of strips out some.
Right. Yeah, that's a subject that's close to my heart. Qualifying leads by friction. It's a very old school, very bad idea. Yeah. Right.
Well, no, true. And ironically, our solution actually, because you can ask some qualifying questions kind of at the front door before passing on the lead to the agency or the agents, you know, we can actually solve some of those problems and get more value from that lead and kind of identify if it's a lead that is worth the time and money or the agent's efforts to follow up with. So no, look, I think as well, you know, as I said, the dynamic has been generating leads, showing leads is not a problem. It's more the quality. So there's been some questions about that. And I think also, you know, a portal has lots of priorities at any given moment. Should this take front and center stage when, you know, there's so many other things, moving parts in portal land that require attention. So I think that has also been a reason why they haven't moved on.
But I mean, I think it's safe to say that one of the largest conversations or debates that between portals and agents is nearly always to do with lead quality and qualification and stuff like that. That's like the forever conversation.
Yes.
And the lead quality is a very subjective. What does that mean? Bad lead, good lead, right? It depends who's following up. You could argue that the people that are good at following up have a much lower threshold of what a good lead is. But regardless of that, it really always comes down to not so much the intent to buy of the lead, like once they've talking to them, is actually just talking to them in the first place.
Sure. Yes.
The getting past the initial hurdle of you've inquired, now let's have a conversation about what you've inquired about. That's the biggest. That's the number one initial point of friction for agents, and in terms of what portals are trying to provide that answer to agents. Sure. I find it odd that the possibility of jumping straight on a conversation with the buyer, it just cuts out this whole tranche of they're not answering. What are we going to do? How long does it take? What percentage of leads? I mean, I can't remember what the percentage is, but I think it is something like 25% or 20% of any lead just doesn't. You don't even get past the first part of getting a response from them. Maybe it's even higher than that. Yeah. So when they're actually inbounding you, requesting something, that seems to me like a no-brainer sort of thing. I know from the days when the chatbots first became around a few years ago, there was that concern that you'd put it on the website and you'd just be inundated, and it never happened. You get a few, and you get some very good ones, and you get a few that are time wasters, and a few, at least from my experience, you get a few that are time wasters, but you get some golden nuggets in there, and you're having the conversation. You've skipped about a month's worth of follow-up work and infrastructure. Anyway, over to you.
You've actually reminded me of another reason portals may be reluctant to introduce a solution like ours on some of the systems, and that is, so portals in other markets. So I know Adilista, Fotocasa, Habitaclia do not offer a contact on a WhatsApp button. Pisos.com does. But in other markets, most portals in kind of emerging markets do offer a contact on a WhatsApp button, and usually that's a button that goes straight to the agent. And then the way those portals will report those leads is a click on a button equals a lead. Now, because our flow is such that we see the click on the button and we see the message actually coming in, we can see the drop off between a click on a WhatsApp button and that property seeker actually sending a message on their phone. And on average, the drop off, so for every 100 clicks, only about 60 inbound messages are sent on average across our global kind of implementations. So if the portal on a Wednesday is reporting 100 leads, and then on Thursday has implemented our solution and suddenly sees, oh dear, there's only 60 of these people send messages, it's not great for them to go to their clients and say, you know, the 100 we told you yesterday, it's actually only 60. Yeah. But that drop off exists. It's almost irrelevant of which market. It's higher in some markets than others, but there's always a a bigger than expected drop off, in my view, between people who click on a button and actually send a message. So that's a good point that you reminded me of.
But this happens the same with phone numbers, all right?
Exactly.
You have the click to reveal thing. That's a lead for you. Thank you. And
exactly.
they're like, I never got the call. Right.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
if you were, just to clarify this, so if you were to offer this to a portal,
yes,
the same kind of principles apply, I would imagine. They can integrate that into the system so they could report on those 60 out of the 100 that actually sent the message with some information about that of that lead. And they can do what they normally do. I mean, am I right in saying they can pretty much do what they normally do with a form, but this just would be another additional option for WhatsApp?
They can actually do a lot more. So I described the flow, and I hope I made sense. But I'm happy to re-explain it to anybody who's interested with a follow-up. But so in the agency land, it's the agency number that acts as the front door and receives the message before notifying the agent responsible. In portal land, it's a portal WhatsApp controlled number that acts as the front door that receives the inquiry and notifies the responsible agent. But because the initial conversation is coming into a portal controlled number, that the portal then has an open conversation on a channel that a property seeker is comfortable with, WhatsApp, and they are able to respond and ask further questions or send alternate listings or do some pretty cool things with that open conversation for just having that channel kind of open directly with the property seeker. And in fact, some of our portal clients are already leveraging that opportunity because they can also see if an agent doesn't respond.
They can see that, yeah.
They can see that non-response and then say, hey, we see the agent has responded to you. How about this property? Or let me send it to another agent who has a mandate for this particular listing as well, or whatever ends up happening.
Even though the conversation, once it gets passed on to the individual broker, it kind of that goes a little bit dark because of the privacy stuff. Yes. But you can know, the boss man of whether it be a brokerage or a portal can know whether the person that the lead has been sent to has engaged with it.
So they can see if the responsible agent has engaged with the lead. They can't see that if the lead then responds to that message.
But they know that at least he or she has done their job, right? They've started
and they've replied. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty strong stuff.
And one more point on the portal side of things. I mean, you and I were at a conference in Madrid recently where a big theme was seller leads. I think that has been a real kind of channel for monetization for portals over recent years and probably will continue to be. So if you're getting an inquiry in from a buyer on WhatsApp, one of your first questions can and maybe should be, are you selling a property? Or are you, and that could become a seller lead that then you can, monetize or extract value from on the other side with your agency.
I mean, it's the thing that I get excited about with stuff like this is that you have every question that you ask is a drop off, isn't it? We know that's a general thing. So typically you would try and avoid asking questions you already have the answers to.
Yes.
And swap the opportunity to ask them something of value. For agents, typically, on a very basic level, it might be, when are you looking to buy or something like that, just a qualifying question so they can sort of categorize it, whether it's a hot lead or an averagely hot lead or whatever the case may be, or why are you looking to buy, and that then send them in a funnel of the kind of information that might be useful for them. So the idea here is that you could, like, at least on the phone number field, you don't need that one. And that's the big painful one. On all lead gen, asking for people's number is like the painful one. So if you swap in that painful one, you could ask them something else that's a lot more valuable to you while still having I suppose you'd have to ask them for their email address, but you have to ask that anyway. So that's amazing. Cool. Yeah, exactly. Is there anything else that we should know about this?
I don't think so. I think that just that it works. I mean, we've seen a lot of traction, especially in the Middle East, where WhatsApp is huge in Dubai and the UAE. And so, I mean, I think, like, give it a try. I think the kind of the mind shift towards offering WhatsApp as a contact option kind of needs to happen. But where we've managed to convince people that they should try it, I think our retention rate is between 95 and 100%, because once it's installed, people say, actually, this does work. So the other thing is, it's really hard to generalize on user behavior and how property seekers are going to respond in a different markets and how agents are. So you really got to kind of try these things to understand what works and what doesn't, because what might work in Spain is going to be different to what works in South Africa, for sure, based on user behavior. I mean, what
I can say is that I do know down here in Spain, at least, particularly agents dealing with international buyers, WhatsApp is a favorite. It's they just normally have to turn a traditional forum-based lead into a WhatsApp conversation. If you
Yeah.
can just have the whole conversation from WhatsApp to start with, you're jumping quite a few steps. One of the things with WhatsApp, because of the privacy stuff and the difficulty in dealing with automating a lot of these sort of things, historically, I have a lot of agents asking me, is there any solution to do this or that to do with WhatsApp? And whenever there appears to be a solution to do with WhatsApp, you invariably find that it's not really. Doesn't really
Sure,
work.
yeah.
You can't really do any of the things you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so it's a bit exciting to find that there are things you can do, and with the limitations that WhatsApp itself puts into place, which is once the conversation is happening, then you're still in a little bit of a black box generally, but everything around it other than that can be informed in the right places, automated, sped up, recorded, logged, and you can actually generate the lead itself via WhatsApp, which is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think it's useful. I mean, as you say, there are some limitations from WhatsApp, but beyond that, there are some very cool things you can do as well. And again, I keep coming back to it, but it's on the channel that most kind of property seekers, and especially younger property seekers, prefer. So yeah, it should be leveraged in my view.
All right, Matt. Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much for your time, Matt. It's been super interesting.
Thank you for having me on.